Welcome, everybody, to another edition of What's Poppin', the podcast. Of course, I'm Deja Perez from 93.9 WKYS, and it is my absolute special honor to introduce Riley Knoxx. Yes, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell everyone who you are.
Well, I am known as the country's top Beyoncé impersonator.
Bitch. Yes. Okay.
And I've been performing for 17 years, but I've been doing Beyoncé since 2003, so about 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I called Riley and I talked to her and was like, it's really important to me. This is the first segment of one that I kind of want to do maybe once a month or every 6 weeks or something like that. But I basically want to call it the coming out version of What's Poppin'. And I thought it was really important to talk to different people that have either come out or transitioned and just kind of get their perspective. And I genuinely have questions that I want to ask, not because I'm an asshole, but it's because I actually want to learn and I want to be taught. And so I talked to Riley yesterday and was like, I just have these questions. I don't want you to be offended. I really just want you to teach me. And she was super down and super about it. So yes, let's get started.
Yes,
All
I
right.
appreciate it actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
So tell everyone how this came about.
Well, I'm transgender. And
In case you didn't know.
In case you didn't. But let's see, where do I start?
So
as far
first
back
question,
as-
right?
okay,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt.
no
But
problem.
when you were little, at what point in your life did you realize I was meant to be a girl?
Well, there's two things I always say that I always knew.
Okay.
I always knew I was going to be an entertainer, and
Okay.
I always knew that I was going to be a girl. So when I was about 5 years old, my parents, my whole family tells a story, and I kind of remembered a little bit. I used to run around with a flashlight in my hand.
As a
pretending it was
microphone.
and a pillowcase on my head singing Whitney Houston
Hair.
songs.
Yes.
Yes. And I always felt different. And I have 3 sisters that are all younger than me.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I thought that I always knew I was going to be a girl, but I thought, because I was a kid, I thought, it just happened naturally. But then when my sisters started going through puberty, and then I started developing in a different way, and I was just like,
This ain't
what's
happening.
happening, in my head. But I couldn't share it with anyone
Okay.
because I'm 36 years old.
Okay.
So back then, we didn't have as much acceptance as we do today.
Mm-hmm.
And my family just wasn't having it. So every single thing that you can imagine, every little thing they nitpicked. So stop sitting like that. Stop talking like that. Stop walking like that. Stop playing your sister's hair. Stop playing with those toys. Stop doing this. They gave me every single Matchbox car, every single fire
Firefighter.
truck,
Yep.
every single baseball, every single thing you can imagine to try to
Boy you.
ingrain in my head that you are every single day that you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a boy. Now
That's gotta
looking
be
back,
frustrating.
It is, but my cousins say that, and my sisters, they all say, we all knew this was going to happen. You were always just like the girl cousin. And my mother said, well, we knew you were going to be this way. We just kind of
Didn't want it.
And they didn't really know better
That's true.
at the time. And I didn't even have the correct word for it. I knew I was different. I knew what I wanted to be, but I didn't have a word for what it was, a proper word. I didn't know what transgender were. There were a lot of slang words that were used.
Right.
And a lot of things that were said to me and done to me to try to get me to sway a different way, to be, a boy.
Right.
And some things you just cannot suppress. And for me, I thought the biggest thing for me to get to be who I want to be, because I knew who I wanted to be. When you're a teenager, you're sometimes questioning, well, everybody when you're a teenager.
Absolutely.
You don't know what's going on. You're trying to question it. But when you're gay or transgender, you go through it times 10 because no one around you is like you.
Now, are you from here?
No, I'm not from here.
Where are you from
I'm
originally?
originally from California by way of South Carolina.
Ooh, so super not about that life. Okay. Oh, okay.
So what happened is my mother's side of the family, my grandmother, Jehovah's Witness.
Oh.
Yeah.
You just had the trifecta of stuff
So yeah. So every single thing was
against you,
Exactly,
basically.
Exactly. And so I was sent to live with my grandmother in
The Jehovah's
South.
Witness.
Mm-hmm.
In South Carolina. I can't.
I had moments where it was so ingrained in my head how I was supposed to be. And there's nothing worse than knowing that you are different, not understanding why you're different, and trying to find your way through that, but having someone try to beat it out of you.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was really hard for me. That was because I was being told one thing, this is not the way you're supposed to be. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. But what I was feeling was innate. Like I couldn't change that.
Natural, just as natural as could be.
And so I was miserable. I had a miserable childhood, a miserable.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine now.
Yeah. But I mean, it
I
still
will
sucks.
tell you. Yeah, absolutely. And because I couldn't share it with anyone. And I never shared it with anyone. And I got teased in school. I got called all kinds of names. I got, from at school, and then my cousins when I got home. Or
you just didn't get a break from it.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah. And I used to sit and just wonder why in the world, why am I different? Why am I having to go through this? Why couldn't I have just been normal? That's normal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what I used to think. And it wasn't until recently that I thought, all those times when I sat up in my room thinking, oh, I wish I was like everybody else. I wish I was like the other kids. I wish I hadn't been different. Why was I like this? And then I thought to myself, I was chosen.
Because God doesn't make any mistakes.
Exactly. And he knew that I'd be strong enough. And he knew that one day that I would be able to stand up and say, you know what, this is what I went through, and somehow be able to help someone else. When I was a kid, I didn't have a Laverne Cox or a Janet Mock or a Isis King or Riley Knox. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I had no one. And the closest thing I had to someone that dressed different, that was born different, was like RuPaul, but that's not what I am. I wasn't a drag queen, So I had no correct word for it. I had no one to look up to. And I say this because if you are growing up in the world today and you get to have those people on mainstream TV that are positive influences,
Correct.
that are not the Maury Povich stories or the Jerry Springer stories.
Right.
You are very lucky to be a trans person growing up in
this day
time,
and age, yeah.
Because I didn't have that. And it wasn't, I was like, I got to do something. I got to find a way out of here. And I mentioned before, going through all these revelations in my head. So by 16, I was just like, the main thing that I got to do is just get the hell away from here. I got to get out of here.
Somehow, some way.
So I ran away and I came here.
Really? Why? Why here?
Well, because I wanted to go to New York.
Okay.
But New York was kind of a little too fast paced. And this seemed like the happy medium between here, LA, like it was a little more
manageable.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I came here. I didn't know anyone here. And I ended up meeting friends that became family.
Okay.
I ended up meeting people who were older than me, but took me in and let me make my mistakes, but still sheltered me a little bit.
Okay.
And I met gay people and I met trans people and people that were just, and I was fascinated. I was like, wow, this world is just amazing. And I met people that I was like, I can't believe this used to be like, this person was born, assigned at birth as a man. Like, oh boy, I just was so fascinated by it. And I was just like, that's what I am. And I was like, wow, it was amazing. And it was the first time in my life that I got to really feel accepted.
And comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. So at that point, obviously.
It still took a little time.
Okay.
But I was still trying to I was fascinated, and then just was like, so there's hope,
Oh,
yeah. It gave me hope. Because that was 2000. And
wow, that was a long time ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you got here in 2000.
Yeah.
From then until you were still a boy, like on the,
still dressing.
Thank you. That's what I meant.
But identified or tried to live as a gay male.
So, okay.
Because I thought like that was the closest thing that I could get away, because we were on like the cusp of like Ellen and everybody.
Right, and it was starting to be more accepted.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't really come out to people. I just kind of
was.
Yeah, but I always looked very girly. Always had long hair, and so I would get mistaken for a girl.
A girl, okay.
And I would go into
You were very pretty.
Yeah.
As a boy, you were very pretty.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, there's not much been done here.
Gotcha.
So it's like
got
this,
it. Okay. Okay.
So people just kind of were like, you're in the wrong bathroom. Or they would be like, so, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to, and I was just like, no. I denied it for a while. And then I just got to a point where I was just sick of hiding. I was sick of trying to apologize for who I was, or trying to explain to or try to fit in with everybody. So what I did was I started dressing. I started dressing as a woman. I started, and I did it without telling people that I was going to do it. Because I knew that I had a feeling that if I had told someone, if I told my friends, that they were going to try to talk me out of it. And boy, was I wrong. because once I told them, they were like, well, it's about time.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they would have been totally supportive of that.
Well, I was scared. I was terrified. I was just like, it's one thing to try to, because this was still taboo at this time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them didn't understand it, but they were like, we support you.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you should as a friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then and then some of my family members found out about it, and I think they might have thought it was like me playing dress up or that it was a phase.
Oh. And luckily this is all before social media. Hallelujah. So like you could do all this here and no one has to know.
Exactly. Okay. So I went home to a family reunion.
Mm-hmm. Were you dressed as
Riley? Oh. And all my cousins and aunts and uncles, and even my mother was there, who I had not spoken to.
Oh.
And they were like, okay, we get it. Yeah, your girl. Not my mother, but my cousins and everybody was just like, yeah, this makes sense. You're gorgeous. Like, yeah, they were so supportive. I was just like, oh, this is amazing.
That's amazing.
Cousins and like aunts and uncles. My mother, still no. It was hard. It was really hard. My grandmother, still very hard. And, there were a lot of things said about me, and there were a lot of things that were speculated, and there was all these like whispers and stuff, and then like Facebook came around, and then like the people I went to high school with started finding out about it, and then
having judgment and stuff.
And then here comes my 10-year reunion.
Oh my.
10-year reunion. And I was nervous. And I thought, oh my God, let me just look like I gotta bring my A game. I gotta look the part.
Your A+ game. Yes.
I gotta look good. I was so nervous. And there were like 3 events that they had, but I went to the last event. And I showed up, I walked in, and everybody gave me a standing ovation. And people were coming up to me, and they were like, do you remember me? And I was just like, well, I know I look different, but of course I remember you. Like, you look the same, or like whatever. Like, you were my best friend in high school. And they were like, just so you know, that whole thing. And they said my other name before. And they were like, all that's gone. You're Riley now. And, we were kind of nervous because we had old pictures of you, and we didn't know whether you. I said, no, it's fine. Because it's like reminiscing, like yearbook stuff.
So is it hard? Like, is it hard to see yourself? Like you posted a throwback picture of yourself, right? Like as you was a child.
Yeah.
Is that hard to see pictures of yourself?
Well, that particular picture, I would think I was like 2 years old, so I don't really remember that. But pictures, say from like the 90s, or say like 2000s, like when I first moved here, those pictures I don't identify with. It feels like I'm looking back at someone else's life.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's certain things that happen that recur in my head, and I have to call my sisters and affirm, like, did that happen? Did we do that?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things that I blocked from my childhood because it was so
traumatic.
horrific to me. And there are a lot of things, like, I'll give you an example. For instance, there's remember those skates that you used to have to strap to your shoe, like instead of just a whole skate, you strap. And I was just like, was that us? Did that happen to us? Or is that a memory of mine? So I called my sister, and I was like, this was a while ago. I called my sister, said, did we do that? And she's like, yeah, we did that.
That was us.
Like, yeah. Because I blocked so many things.
Wow.
It feels like I'm reminiscing on someone else's life. Like life before my transition just doesn't feel right. It just feels
foreign.
Odd. Yeah. I know it happened. I'm not crazy.
Obviously, right.
You
were there.
But it's so many other things have happened that caused me to really grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was damn near adult when I came here, but I really had to grow up.
Okay.
I had to be independent. I was run away. I had to, I had to figure out, how I was going to go about this, and it was a learning. I was learning as I go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you came here, you started dressing like a girl. And
I was working as a makeup artist.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of like was in that world. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I've never had to hire a makeup artist. But
smart, actually. But
yeah, it's a good thing. It saved me money over the years. But I went to my first drag show with someone that I was dating.
Okay.
And he took me there.
And I'm asking this because
it's okay. I was still a.
So were you were dating a boy then, or you were dating a girl?
Okay. This was I backed up a little bit. So this was before I transitioned.
Okay.
So I was trying to live as a
gay
very
man,
girly gay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got it. Okay.
But he took me to my first club, and I wasn't old enough to get into this club.
Okay.
Right. But they snuck me in, and because he knew everyone there, and I met all these beautiful, like like larger than life personalities and drag queens and transgender girls and all this stuff. And I was just like fascinated, like, wow.
Nice.
And I was new in makeup, and their makeup was just everything.
Yes.
Far beyond what I could do at the time. And they said to me, they're like, you're really pretty. Why don't you bring a wig and a dress and have a number ready next week? And I was just like, oh, no, I could never do that. Never. And they were just like, no.
Even though you know you want to be an entertainer.
Exactly. So in my head, but I still fought it because I was just like, oh, no, I could never do it. I could never do it. Because I was really, really, really shy.
Oh.
And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And that whole week I prepared, and I went out and bought like a wig, and I bought like a dress, and I did all this stuff, and I was just like super nervous. And I got there, and I was so rehearsed, and you know, the first song I ever did was What About by Janet from the Velvet Rope album.
Oh, that was a sexy album, though.
It is, but it was a very dramatic song. It was about domestic violence. And so I wanted something really dramatic.
Okay, it makes sense.
When I stepped onto the stage, all that nervousness that I had and all that shyness that I had completely went away.
So you knew that this was what you were supposed to do.
And I still have a picture from back in the day of all the girls coming from out of the dressing room, clutching their pearls like, who is this kid? Like,
wow.
You know? And I want to tell you that every single time before I go on stage, I feel that feeling every single time. Before I go on stage, that nervous feeling, and as soon as I hit the stage, the nervousness is gone. I've never been nervous on stage because I just transformed. I realized I don't look like myself. I realized I can be somebody else. I can just be uninhibited. And I wanted to do it again, and I wanted to do it again and again and again.
Created a monster.
Exactly. And then I started to come to terms with the whole transition, and that's when I went through the...
Okay, so let's talk about the transition.
Kind of out of order. But
all good. So, and I pretty much have adult ADHD, so it's fine. But so what was there a catalyst that you were like, today is the day I'm ready to transition, or was it something that kind of, it sounds like it kind of evolved, but what officially made you like, I don't know what the process is, but made you call the doctor or whatever you
there was a lot of soul searching.
Okay.
But I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was September 11th, 2004.
Okay.
And it was like, it's now or never. How long are you going to hide?
Wow.
And I had to have this conversation with myself. And it was sort of like, the only thing that was standing in my way was myself. So, you know, what are you going to do? And that's when I started the dressing. And then I told my friends, and I think because I had the support of my closest friends.
Yeah.
Now, there were people that were just like, what? What are you talking about?
Oh,
Why
really?
are you doing that? Don't do that.
Well, I guess in 04, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then somehow I think while growing as an entertainer and growing as a trans woman, the two worked together, and especially the performance helped me to come out of the shell even more and not really care about what other people were thinking. And where I am today is completely different for that reason, because not only because the world has progressed, but also just because I had to really work on it. You know, people say to me, well, you know, when was your transition over? And I said, I don't think it'll ever be over. I think I'm still transitioning. Because I'm now having to deal with people in the world and educate people in the world that may not know what I am. And I love that I get to do that. Just like this, you know. I love that. But, you know, it's still sort of a thing that some people don't understand. It's just come in the forefront. So I feel like I'm transitioning now in a different way.
That makes sense.
You know?
So once you transitioned, how long is that, like the surgical
medical
aspect?
process.
Yeah, thank you. How long is that process?
So well, I started like hormones and all those treatments, and my body started to change really fast.
Oh, okay.
Like super fast, to the point where people were just like, "This was meant to be." You know, like
okay.
The breast started growing, the hips spread,
because I mean, you are like bad.
Yeah, yeah, and that's real, by the way. Yes. People think. I think because people think that because I'm trans that every single thing on me is fake.
Got it.
And I'm like, that part's real.
Okay. Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not typical, but it's possible. And I work out a lot too. But, you know, I will say where I became more of like what we call like unclockable or undetectable, like people didn't really focus in on it so much or couldn't tell as much, was probably somewhere around like 2006.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, from 2000 to like 2 years.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, but see, then I ran into a different problem.
Which is?
The attraction of men who didn't know what I was.
So that leads me to the next question. Okay, so do you have an obligation to tell someone that you are a trans woman? Is that a thing, or is that like I'm a woman now, so what difference does it make?
Someone that I'm romantically involved with, yes. And the reason why, because I don't want to be hurt, because there could be someone that is not down with it and just completely wants to hurt me, because I've heard stories, and I've had friends who were killed because of that. But see, so this is what I'm going to explain to you. So somewhere around 2006 between 2006 and 2009, I was living in a delusion.
Okay.
That I needed to fit into a world and be completely stealth.
Okay.
And I used to go to clubs like Shadow Room and 1223 and the Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to like fit in, and I didn't want people to know what I was, because I never wanted to walk into a club and be the trans woman.
Of course not, like, because that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. At the time, exactly.
Or now.
So, right. Yeah.
Right.
And have people like whisper and stuff. But because of the way I look, I got the attention of a lot of guys, and then and they wanted to know me and all this stuff, and it got really hard. And I did some things that I wasn't really proud of, like not being as upfront.
But at least you're woman enough to admit it.
Yeah, but big mistake, because I really could have been hurt. And
like physically hurt.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes, I could have been physically hurt. And I tell girls now, like girls that look up to me and girls that I mentor, like, full disclosure, I don't care what you look like or what your intention, if you see someone that's romantically involved with you
or wants to be,
upfront.
So what is that conversation like? Because I want to know. Like, how does that happen? Well, and how far into your dating does that come up? You know what I mean?
Every situation is a little different, but in the beginning, I used to not tell guys because I wanted them to know who I was before they knew what I was.
That makes sense.
Because it usually would soften the blow, but that wasn't really the best idea for me, because they would end up developing feelings for me, or I'd end up developing, and then somebody would have their heart broken, or we would get a little more intimate, and it's sort of like, you put me in a situation that I wasn't prepared for because you didn't tell me, and I
didn't have a choice.
You didn't give me a choice.
Okay, I get that.
And so now it's a lot different. I don't do that anymore, and I've never really admitted that on like camera or on because I've talked to friends about it, and I've talked to people that I mentor about it too. But I can say it now because that was something I did,
and a learning experience.
Yes. And I came close to having someone be aggressive with me, and thank God they weren't. And
that's so scary.
Yeah, it's a long story, but it was a little scary, and I thought, you know what, better not do this ever again. And so what happened was in 2009, I signed on to do a reality show, and I thought, you know what, this is sort of going to be my coming out. Now I'll no longer be able to say I'm not, because someone will be able to Google. And
that's
be the
true.
first thing that comes up.
That's
so it was
true.
sort of my way of saving my own life.
Okay.
Because I won't say addicted to the but it was a good feeling that like a guy would meet me and not know, and it was just like, oh, I'm passing, and he thinks, especially when you're just starting out, you think like that felt good to be
accepted as a woman.
Exactly. And then other girls would like hang out with me in the club and stuff, and they didn't really know, and we'd be, vibing and stuff. And it just felt like I felt really accepted. But you know what? I look back at it now, and I think, you know what? I was trying to exist in a world that I really didn't need to be accepted in. I didn't really I really wanted the acceptance, but I didn't really need it. And the thing that I thought that
also takes like a level of maturity to realize that, though.
Yeah, but it wasn't until recently that I realized that the thing that I thought that hindered me, or the thing that like set me back, was the thing that set me apart. And now, it's the thing that made me unique, or it's the thing that made me, made my story interesting, or made me not like every other girl. And now I can say as a proud transgender woman, which I wasn't before, but I can say now that I'm proud, and that I'm, And I think it helped that the world started to accept
Be more
it more.
accepting, yeah.
But long before that, I was just like, this is who I am, and I don't care anymore.
God bless you. So what you said when you went home for the family reunion that, you know, mama and grandma were like, so I can imagine that's like a brass pair. But that being said, like, what is your relationship with them now? Do you have one?
Not with my grandmother.
Still.
My grandmother has been a Jehovah's Witness for over 50-something years.
Okay.
And she's...
It just is.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, with older people is sometimes...
And from the South.
Yeah.
Like, that's a... Yeah. Okay.
My mother... I'll tell you what happened with my mother. I used to have other entertainers that were friends of mine that would have their mother come and sit in the front row.
And support and stuff.
And I was like, that'll never be me. That'll never be me. Oh, I don't even know what that's like, you know? And something happened where I became known, and people started coming up to my mother and saying, oh, I went to this show, and I saw this girl that did Beyonce. She was amazing. Look at this.
And it was you.
Exactly. My mom's like, that's my child. And they're like, well, you're having a phenomenal child. Like, you know, whatever. And she started seeing that she was kind of missing out on someone that with a really good heart. And it wasn't even like about the like fame or like who I am. It just was sort of...
She saw you through different eyes.
Exactly. Like people are accepting this, and I don't really know my child.
That's got to be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. And so she started reaching out, and I wasn't ready. I'll be honest with you. She started reaching out probably about a year before I actually called her or texted her and said, you know what? And this was 2013.
Oh, this is like relatively recent.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I will never forget. Like having my mother sit in the front row with her giant Galaxy Note and like filming me, and me trying to do Single Ladies and trying to remember all that choreography and trying to
like, holy
not
crap, my
focus
mama's here.
Exactly. Like, don't focus. Just treat her like a regular fan in the audience. Don't even focus on the fact that, and then think about it later. It was the best feeling. Deja, I had performed for celebrities all over the world and politicians and big people, but nothing compared to performing for my mother and seeing
slaying
how
it.
Proud she was.
Aww.
Proud, and seeing like other people coming up to me and saying how much they loved me, but then my mother's right there and she saw that too. And so we just started to build our relationship. And now it's so funny because I'll call her and she's like, girl, let me tell you what happened. And I'm just like,
that's your mama now.
And it was her birthday the other day and we took her out to dinner. She's so...
That's amazing.
She's amazing. Now, it's amazing to have because I'm starting to get to know her as a friend. And
like as a woman.
Exactly. And there's certain things sometimes I still have to explain to her, because it's from a place of love now that she wants to know.
Right.
And it was only because she didn't understand, and she thought that me being what I am or being who I am was going to be a reflection of who she was as a mother. And once you realize that people were accepting it and that people were not judging me
her.
and that they loved me and they supported me, and then I had someone come up to me. They just did this Sunday, came up to me and they said, you were absolutely amazing. Oh my God, you're amazing. We know your mother. And I was like, really? Your mother's so proud of you. And I went, you don't understand what that means to me for a fan to say that to me.
Right.
Because my mother's not, we were not always an emotional family.
Okay.
But my mother has never really, I know she's proud and she's always like, bragging about, oh, my kid was on TV and all this, all this stuff now. But for someone else to say that because she said it to them is
really real.
Felt really good. Yeah. Because it wasn't just about the performance.
Right.
Because my mother, at this point, I've been on TV and so many things, so many times. My mother, I've said to her, I said, I'm going to be on this. And
she's like,
that's
just
great.
Like,
exactly. I was like, you just don't really care anymore. You're like, you're too used to it. She's like, I guess, whatever.
Is there a support system? Like your situation kind of worked out really well, like with your mom and things like that. But is there a support group, or is there like how they have suicide lines and all these other lines for people that are going through stuff like that where their parents ultimately are not accepting?
There is a place called Casa Ruby that's here in DC. It's located actually right down the street, Georgia Avenue. And it is a safe haven. It's the first transgender LGBTQ.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay.
It's the first shelter of its kind for youth whose family has put them out because they don't understand or not accepting of them. And it was started by an amazing trans woman named Ruby Corrado.
Wow.
Yeah. And the organization or the group that I perform with and that I perform for, and our motto is giving back to I can't talk right now. Giving back one show at a time.
Okay.
So we've donated a lot of money, time, shows, and everything to a lot of places. But one place that's really close to our heart is Casa Ruby.
Makes sense.
Because this is a place where these kids just don't have anybody else, and they don't have. They may have lost hope, or.
Which seems like that could be really easy
your
to
family,
do.
These are people that are supposed to love you.
Yeah,
you
no
know?
matter what.
Exactly. But what's great is they find another family, a new family in this organization.
That's
and it's amazing. It's the first of its kind, but it's amazing. It's growing very fast, and we've been lucky to have the support of the government and also a lot of people around. And there's a lot of places around the country, but this thing is amazing. Casa Ruby, it's absolutely amazing.
I will definitely do some research on that and see how I can help, because I think that's really dope. I didn't even know it existed.
It really is.
So we can talk all day. We've actually been at this for almost 30 minutes, and I'm so sorry because we have to wrap up. But I asked before we got started, I was like, have you ever met Beyonce?
Yeah.
Because, hello, and tell them.
So 3 times. The first...
I want to meet Beyonce so bad, but okay.
So, and I will tell you, this is the number one question that I get asked by fans, and also when I'm doing like live Instagram or Facebook. So the first 2 times was like a meet and greet backstage.
Okay.
Right. And the first time was when she was with Destiny's Child, but the reboot, it was Michelle and Farrah.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
A long time ago.
Okay.
Then the second time was at the Beyoncé experience. I think that was 2003 or 2004. And then by the third time, she knew who I was because she had watched.
What?
Yeah, she had watched videos because we have a mutual friend, and I would send him things, and she would show them. And back in MySpace days, I was friends with her, with Ashley Everett, who was her lead choreographer and dancer.
Okay,
with the red hair,
Uh-huh.
and also BB McGill, who was the lead of her band.
Okay.
The Big Afro. So I used to talk to them, and I used to send them things, you know.
Okay.
It's like, and they would show her things, and so she would
Dope.
watch on YouTube and all that stuff. So by that time, she knew who I was, and it was absolutely amazing. And everything that you expect her to be, and everything that everyone says, she's amazing, she's gracious, all those things. So it feels good to have the acceptance and the respect of the person that I impersonate. Because
that's amazing.
You know, when I went viral for that whole pregnancy thing, the pregnancy video that I did, a lot of fans tried to come for me because they were like, oh, you're trying to take the queen's place. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? No
How?
one can take.
Right.
This is a tribute. You know, I love her just as much as you do. And I have her approval. So, love me too.
Right.
So that was great. Yeah.
That is super dope. And I am so honored that you were my first guest. I thank you so much. So please tell everyone where they can see you, where they can follow you, where they can just have more Riley Knoxx in their life.
So you can see me at Town Dance Boutique on Friday nights and Saturday nights at 10:30 p.m. You can also see me on Saturday and Sunday mornings for a brunch show, which I'm going to invite you to, by the way, at the Chateau Remix, which is on 3439 Benning Road.
Okay.
And it's an amazing time. You just basically brunch and a show.
Can't beat that.
It's absolutely amazing. And then you can find me on social media, Riley Knoxx. That's Knox with 2 X's on everything. Instagram, Facebook, every social media platform.
Yay! So we will bring you back in a little bit just to, check in with you and see how things are going. And you have some interesting things in the works.
I do.
So hopefully,
I would love to come on and talk about it.
Yes. So we'll do that once it all gets panned out. So thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate you.
This has been a blessing. I love any chance to educate and just put the word out there, because I feel like knowledge is understanding, and people
absolutely
more acceptance.
Absolutely,
so really
and we need more of that.
We need more advocates like you. So I really allies
thank
like you would really appreciate it.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us for our coming out edition of the What's Poppin' podcast on 93.9 WKYS. Bye guys.